So I am back in the United States after spending nearly a year in Paraguay and Colombia. And I've now lived a total of 3 years in Latin America specifically. Now, before I left, I thought culture shock only happened when you moved abroad. But I've learned that coming back home can be just as surprising, and it's called reverse culture shock. This is when everything looks familiar, but nothing really feels the same. And it all started when I landed in Boston. It hit me right away when the Uber ride from the airport to about 30 minutes where I was staying was $80, not including tip. The funny part is, in Latin America, specifically in Colombia, really any country, domestic flights one way anywhere in the country cost me less than 50 bucks versus a 30 to 40 minute Uber ride in the States cost me $60 to $80. And I was reminded that you need a car here to do just about everything. So in this video, I'm gonna walk you through what reverse culture shock really feels like. Not only the surprises, but also the positives and the big takeaways after coming back to the US from South America. If you're new here, my name's Alex, and on this channel, I share everything I've learned about leaving the US and living a much higher quality of life in Latin America as a man over 35. So if that sounds interesting to you, be sure to subscribe. Now let's get into the video. All right, let's dive right in. So the first section of this is we're going to cover the shocks of being back in the United States. So the first thing, which is not so surprising, is the cost of living, right? Very short first shock was money. So I mentioned the $80 taxi ride for 30 minutes really set the tone in the beginning. But even the taxi driver who's been driving for like 30 plus years, he was complaining about the out of control prices, right? Like from fast food to restaurants. A personal example for me was taking my parents out to breakfast. We went to a decent breakfast spot, right? About 30 minutes outside of Boston. And the total for 3 people was about $85 with tip, all right, which is another thing I'll cover later in the video, which comes to about $28 per person for a basic breakfast, right? And for context, $28 per person would buy me a great dinner really anywhere in South America, with the exclusion of some places in maybe like Lima, Peru, or Mexico City. A lot of those like fancy restaurants can go a lot higher, of course. But for most places, like in Paraguay or Colombia, $28 per person gets you a really amazing meal and dining experience. And then in terms of housing, like Airbnbs, if you're going to stay, for a short period of time, if you don't have family or friends to stay with, the prices are going to be insane to compare to what you can get in South America, of course. But let me just show you some examples here. So Boston, well, we're looking at about 30 to the 40 minutes outside of Boston area, which is where I'm originally from. And just to look at my options, right? Here are my options, right? For like apartments and homes in the North Shore area. I mean, no less than 2,200. Like this is an apartment for 3,000 a month, right? It looks like it's a 2-bedroom, basic 2-bedroom, right? Nothing special. And I have to pay almost $3,000 a month for this thing, right? $3,000 a month gets me a king level lifestyle really anywhere in South America, just to give you an idea. The second thing is the call culture and how spread out everything is in the States, right? In Latin America, I literally walk everywhere because I stay in the best parts of the city where I have everything surrounding me that's about 5, 10, maybe 15-minute max walking distance. I'm talking coffee shops, gyms, restaurants, bars, everything is within walking distance, right? And anytime I want to leave my area, I just take an Uber ride. So I'm literally driven everywhere. That's kind of a lifestyle I've been used to. That's the lifestyle I've been familiar with for the last 3 years. But back here, like I said, everything is spread out. The gyms, the coffee shops, the restaurants, everything is designed around driving. And if you walk long distances in the US and in the suburbs, people assume that it's because you can't afford a car. Like if you use public transportation here, people assume that you can't afford a car, and that's probably true. But you're seen as someone who is doing poorly in society. Versus in Latin America, if you don't have a car, it's going to be because you live in the best part of the city, and you're seen more as an affluent person in that society, right? So not having a car in South America is actually a status symbol, versus in the US, you're looked at kind of like a peasant. So here in the US, everyone needs a car. It's super inconvenient if you don't have one. And it also makes you less active, right? So the good thing about not having a car in South America, first off, there's a lot of different benefits, but one of them is you're always moving, you're always walking, which means you're living a healthier lifestyle versus in the US, like as soon as you leave your apartment, your house, you get right into your car, you go to the next spot, you're a lot less active and a lot less healthy. The next thing is food and health in general, right? Produce in South America is always very fresh, it's always seasonal, it's full of flavor. The avocados alone are abundant. I mean, I'm an avocado guy. I usually eat at least one a day. And there's literally an avocado guy like roaming the streets selling avocados for maybe 40, 50 cents, for maybe 50 cents at the most, that are ripe or ready to use for that day. Versus in the US, they're about 150 and you have to wait days in order to eat them. They're not ripe at all. Add in the huge portion sizes and again, driving everywhere, less walking, less activity. It's easy to put on extra pounds quickly and eat food that really isn't as fresh or full of flavor naturally that you're used to in South America. Now, tipping culture is another one, all right? This one hits with every meal, every purchase, even Uber rides. Tipping is just everywhere in the United States, right? In Latin America, tipping is actually optional, all right? It's something that's not required. If you do tip, it's seen as more of a kind gesture. They're very grateful if you tip like 5 or 10%. I'm usually tipping 10% in Latin America just because I'm so used to tipping here in the United States. At least 20, 25% is the norm here. So it just reminds you that not only is everything more expensive, but when you add in the fact that you are really required to tip, no matter where you go, it just even adds it on to another level, right? That's really only a thing here in the States that I found. Tipping is not a thing in South America. Now let's get into some positives because not everything is negative coming back to the US when you've been in Latin America for 3 years, right? It's not all negative, okay? So there are some things that the US does really well, such as Amazon packages and technology, right? Here, everything is same day delivery or next day delivery, which in my opinion is incredible, right? You can literally order anything you want online and it's going to arrive at your door within 24 to 48 hours. That is incredible. That doesn't happen in South America. In fact, I ordered some new microphones because I might be doing some interviews on this channel. So I was looking forward to ordering those mics, which is tough to find in South America. It's also a lot more expensive in South America for any electronics, anything to do with laptops, right? Microphones, things like that. So not only is it cheaper here in the States to purchase, but it's also very convenient to order. Even if it's not available at certain stores, you can just order everything online and it's gonna be here within a day, which again is incredible. The next benefit, and we're gonna hit these more in rapid fire here. So the next benefit is card payments. Okay, now every place here in the US accepts cards. Not so much in South America. Now, a lot of places do accept cards in South America, of course, but it is mostly a cash culture. And I'm always carrying cash with me in South America. Okay, so I always have to go to the ATM, take out cash. Whereas here, cards make everything more convenient and much quicker when it comes to transacting. Also, speaking English is something that you don't really think about, right? When you spend 3 years in Latin America, you're just immersed in Spanish. Yeah, you'll meet some expats, of course. And, you know, in my work, I'm always speaking English when I work remotely in remote sales. But it's refreshing to just order food or ask questions or interact with people in English because you don't have to think as much, right? My Spanish is good, but it's not like perfect, right? So there's times where I have to really think about what I'm going to say or what is the word that I'm looking to use for that. So it is easy and convenient sometimes to give your brain a break when you're in a country and a culture that speaks your native language. Now, efficiency is a big one. Okay, service here is super fast. Like Dunkin' Donuts, which again, I'm in Boston. We're really big on our Dunkin' Donuts here. From ordering to receiving iced coffee takes literally a minute, right? I pull up to the drive-thru, but first off, there's usually a line, but these lines go super quick. And that's not something I'm used to either. Lines in South America take a while. All right. So so in an example for like a drive-through coffee example, lines are going really quick. You take your order, boom, boom, order quickly. You go to the window. It's already ready for you. You exchange your card. They give it back to you in seconds, and then you're on your way. It's super efficient compared to Latin America. People take their time. A lot of times there's not a lot of people working behind the counter. So everything's just going to take a lot longer. And it's really nice to have that speed of efficiency, especially in the morning when you're looking to get shit done. Now, transportation and infrastructure. So I know I started this video with the $80 Uber ride and, you know, the inconvenience with that. But I have to admit that the transportation and the infrastructure in cities like Boston are really impressive. From highways to tunnels to trains, it's really efficient compared to South America. Like a place like Paraguay, there's really no trains. I mean, some cities have it, like Medellin. I can't really think of too many cities that actually have a pretty good subway system, or not a subway system, just a train system. But when you think about a city like Boston, like the subway, everything's built underground, the tunnels are built underneath the ocean. These are things that you take for granted when you're growing up in these types of cities that have really good infrastructure, right? And when you come back, you're like, wow, like somebody had to come up with that idea. People actually had to, do work to make that happen. And it's really impressive compared to things you'll see in South America, let's say, in terms of infrastructure. A couple examples. I went to a Red Sox game, right, with my dad and my brother. We took the T in. The T was super efficient, super fast, super clean. Driving through the Sumner Tunnel underneath the ocean reminded me of like how good the engineering is in the States that we take for granted that we don't really see in South America. So I have to give credit where credit's due. So in conclusion, reverse culture shock is real, and coming back home really makes you realize how much you've changed and grown. This is a huge positive when you spend time away from your home country, from your friends, from your family, and you come back, because you're a different person, right? You're more interesting than you were before. You've had different experiences. An example is I was at dinner with some friends right here in the US since I've been back. And one of them asked me to tell them a story, and specifically in Colombia. So right away, I have a good story to tell them, right? And I'm not going to get into details on this video. It's a little too much, too graphic. It basically included me with my girl at the time, and we went to a place outside of Buenaventura, which is near Cali, Colombia. Took a boat to a remote island, and ended up in one of those like nice hostels where you have your own cabanas and you have other people. It's called Mellow Hostel, in case you want to check it out. And there were certain things that happened at Mellow Hostel that I won't get into in this video. But my point is, you have certain experience that you can tell your friends back home that reminds you and them that you have a pretty cool life. So for me, I really enjoyed reconnecting with family and friends and the convenience of being back in the US for a few weeks. But honestly, I'm already excited to get back to Latin America, right? I already miss the slower pace of life, the freshness of the food, the affordability, the lifestyle, the feminine energy, which I didn't get into in this video, but I'll probably get into another video. It feels a lot more aligned with how I want to live. And I'm already looking forward to going back to Paraguay in about a couple weeks. So at this time, I got about a couple weeks left here in the US. And honestly, it's been great to be back. But I already know where I feel most at home, and that's Latin America. And by the way, if you're serious about making the move to Latin America and you don't want to figure everything out on your own, I offer one-on-one consultations in which I can help you choose the right city, find ideal housing, navigate dating and social life, and build your ideal lifestyle in Latin America. Links in the description. Or if you just prefer to watch a similar video, then check this one out right here, and we'll see you there.